Most privacy fences look good on one side, but terrible on the other. A box shadow fence, on the other hand, looks good on both sides, but the problem is, it's usually not very private. So when I built mine, I tightened the spacing using a 1 5/8 inch spacer, which makes it way more private. For the front side, this part is pretty straightforward. I used the spacer to line up the picket with the 1 5/8 inch gap, and I tacked the boards in place using 1 inch, 18 gauge stainless steel brad nails. Every 3 or 4 boards, I stop and I check for plumbs so things don't slowly drift off. Once the first side is complete, I take out my string line so I have a guide for my screws so everything's perfectly straight. I pre-drill every single hole and I screw them in permanently. It takes much longer, but everything looks super clean, super in line, and the pickets are easily removable. But here's the problem you'll run into on the backside. You can't just use the spacer here. If you do that, you'll end up with this. The boards aren't centered behind the gaps, which will screw up with the whole privacy issue. That happens because we made tiny adjustments on the front side and because not every board is exactly the same width. They're all a couple of millimeters off, especially if some are wet and some are dry. So after 10 boards in a row, you can be off by quite a bit. So on the back side, I still use the spacer, but only for 2 or 3 pickets at a time. And then I check the gap on the front side pickets, I mark the center, and I line up the picket so the center of the picket meets that center mark. That's how I make sure this fence stays private for every single picket and has the same overlap over the front side pickets. And one bonus of screwing everything in instead of nailing it, I can remove an entire section if ever I need to bring materials or machinery into the yard. Details like this are what make this fence still look good years later. And on my fence, I also added a top cap 2x4 so it looks super clean, and look at how good it looks with my 12 volt lighting. Don't just think about the front, because